Welcome to the Grueling Truths Kentucky Derby Special. Our Kentucky Derby Special is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. You can go to the GruelingTruth.com website, click on the MyBookie.ag banner at the top of the page to give you up to 100% cash back bonus on your first $300 deposit. Also brought to you by the Handicapping Guide with Phil Rankin. And today, of course, I am your host, Mike Goodpaster, and I want to welcome in my co-host. You hear him on the Sheridan Report with me every day, but he can't get enough talking sports with me. Help me welcome to the show, Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
Mike, I'm doing great, and heck, we're talking Kentucky Derby. We're going to try to make some money, so I'm all for that.
Oh, me too. And we have two special guests tonight. The first, from the Handicapper's Guide. Help me welcome to the show, Phil Rankin. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing fine.
And
looking forward to it.
And we have the honor today to have who I think is the number one jockey agent of all time. He basically was the agent to 8 of the greatest jockeys of all time, all Hall of Famers. Help me welcome to the show, Vince DeGregory. How you doing, Vince?
Doing very well, Mike, and I'm very happy that you asked me to be a guest on your show. And always through my years, I'm 86 years of age now, and I've been on a lot of TV shows and radio shows, and it always gives me great happiness that I can give some insight what I've done throughout my career to maybe help people get some winners and maybe not so, but I'm always anxious to be able to be a guest.
All right, so I read up a little bit on you. All good, by the way, Vince. And
Thank you.
It said that you started with being agents to jockeys in 1959. Is that when you first really started to get into horse racing?
No, I got into horse racing. It was quite odd. When I was 16 years old, I was a pretty good athlete, and the Dodgers were scouting me. And the next thing is I went to the University of Vermont on a scholarship, and my name was in the New York Daily News by Gene Ward. And the next thing is Ralph Thurl, who was a jockey agent at that time, had Willie Bolden, who eventually won a Kentucky Derby, called me up and asked me if I would like to play in the summer league, play softball. And I said, why not? I'm not doing anything. I was only 16 at the time. And I played in the summer league, and that's when I got affiliated with all of the jockeys and owners and trainers and the people that make up the industry. And I got a liking for it, but just a young guy. And the following year, I was a junior in high school, and they called me again to play ball. And the next thing happened was the guy running the how can I say, the New York racing backside, and he was a coach at St. Peter's High School. When I was with Saratoga High School, I competed against him, and he said, you can't play this year. And I said, why? He said, well, you're a ringer. You're not licensed on the racetrack. And then that caused me to get a job as a hot walker. And it was crazy enough that I became a Pinkerton. I didn't know how to shoot the gun. I said, well, anything for the summer months to be affiliated with the jockeys. And of course, when they left, I went to University of Vermont, and then I went into service. And when I got out, Eddie Arcaro, the great Eddie Arcaro, he rented my dad's home, and we become great friends. And every year they would leave, and I would be doing some kind. I went to University of Vermont, then I went to Albany Business College, and I was playing basketball. And all of a sudden, one day I said to Eddie, I get sad when every time everybody leaves, I don't see you for 11 months. And he said to me, well, there's a couple of things, Vince, on the racetrack that I would give you advice, and we'll leave it up to you to see what you want to do. He said, first of all, you're too big to be a jockey. I'm 6'2". Secondly, he said, you want to be a trainer? I said, what's that pertain to? He said, well, you got to work 7 days a week. No, I don't think I want to work 7 days a week. So then he said to me, there's only one thing left that I can advise to you, and that would be a jockey agent. But in the meantime, to be a jockey agent, there's only 10 in the country that make the top money. The rest are always struggling. He said, would you want to be a jockey agent? I said, yeah, I think I'd like to try it. Well, of course, in 1959, I got my license because of him. He took me in and introduced me to Marshall Cassidy and Cal Rainey, who were the tough stewards at that time, well-respected around the world. And one thing I remember Arcaro saying to me, and he said, Vince, I'd like you to do one thing as an agent. Make sure you be honorable. When you give a trainer a call, you don't mess them up and take off their horse at the draw. and promise me that's all I would like you to do. And I never forgot what he said. And to this day, and being an agent for 60 years, I've never screwed anybody at the draw, and I've learned that from him. And, of course, as I had gone on, 7 years, Mike, I struggled. I went from Charlestown, West Virginia, Laurel, Maryland, Bowie, Pimlico, Delaware Park, Green Mountain Park, Turf Paradise. I put my time in for 7 years, and God, I guess, was looking down upon me, and it so happened in our little restaurant that we had, our Carol was drinking with Shoemaker and Don Amici, the actor, and my buddy and myself, and we closed the bar up. And our Carol said to Shoe, it was like yesterday, he says, Shoe, there's a black rider that's in here. Looks like he's got a lot of talent. And Shoe right away said, his name is Angel Cordero. And when I heard that, the antenna went up. I said, Angel Cordero, where the hell did he come from? So Eddie Belmonte was his friend, and I was a good friend of Eddie's. So I asked Eddie to introduce me to Angel. But it took about 2.5 months before he finally decided he wanted to give me the book. And everything fell in place, Mike, as I get excited talking about my career. That I had, when in college, as I was there, my fraternity brother was John Jacobs, who was the son of the famous Hearst Jacobs. And so when I got my license, and I'm in Belmont Park with Lenny Goodman, who was the agent for Braulio Baeza, and here comes John. And John said, hey, Vince, I haven't seen you. What are you doing lately? And I said, John, I'm a jocks agent. And he said, yeah, who's your rider? And I said, I'm working for Angel Cordero. And he had a frown on his face. I said, John, don't give me that look, because you don't even know who the jockey is. Don't make a fun of him or me. And he said to me, I don't know that rider. I said, well, let me say something to you, John. Eddie Arcaro and Willie Shoemaker told me that that's a great young rider that's got all the talent in the world, and that's the reason I'm his agent. And Lenny Goodman had a cigar, and he almost swallowed it when I said that to John. And the next thing John says to me, well, you know where my dad's barn is in Aqueduct? I said, everybody knows it's across from the kitchen. What do you want, John? He said, come by, I'll introduce you to my father. I said, no, I'm not going to go over there. Your dad doesn't know who the jock is. I'm not going to being that embarrassed. He said, you come over there tomorrow. Okay, so I got over there, and I'm at 5:30. I'm in the kitchen. I come out. They go out with a set. They come back. I stand there. Nobody talks to me. This went on for 3 hours. Now the Italian in me is fuming. I'm going to kick the shit out of him. So when they came back the last time, and finally John said, oh, Dad, I want to introduce you to Vince DeGregory. He went to the University of Vermont, and he was my fraternity brother, and he's a jockey agent. So Mr. Jacobs, very soft-spoken, he said, young man, who's the jockey you're representing? I said, Mr. Jacobs. I said, John had a frown on his face, and probably you will too. I said, Eddie Arcaro and Willie Shoemaker told me there's a young jockey from Puerto Rico who's got a lot of talent. All he needs is an opportunity to ride a couple of winners. And I'm shaking in my boots, and he said to me, do you know where my box is at Belmont Park? I said, yes, sir. He said, you come by my box this afternoon. Man, I'm in cloud nine. How can this be happening? So I rush home. I take a shower, shave, and get all dressed up. I get to the track, and it's the first race. And Lenny Goodman says, what are you doing all dressed up? I said, Hearst Jacobs told me to come by and see him. He said, he ain't going to put that new jock on any horses. I said, well, he told me to see him. He said, by the way, he's got a horse in the 6th race, so slow down. When they leave their box, then you go talk to him. This is the truest story that I can tell you. So now, finally, the race is over with. He won the race. Everybody got out of the box. And as I'm walking down, he felt my presence. He said, oh, young man, come in and sit down in the box. Now, you must understand, Mike, I don't have a call in the condition book. So he said to me, do you have your book with you? My heart is pounding. I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, turn to page so-and-so. He said, do you have him out in that race? I said to myself, should I tell him I don't have anything? Or shall I embarrass him by telling him that? So I said, no, sir, I don't have a call. To cut a long story short, he gave me 5 calls in that book. And then he said to me, of the 5, I want you to ride my horse I bred. His name is Understanding. Holy shit. I said, okay, thank you. I go out of the box. I said, Lenny, he gave me 5 calls. He said, like shit he did. I said, I'm telling you. Well, anyway, as the time went on, the first horse we rode for Hearst Jacobs won. The second one won. The next 2 finished second. We're on a Saturday, and the last horse we got for him is Understanding in the $75,000 stake race. And you must understand, Mike, in those days, we only had 25,000, 50,000, 75,000, and 100,000. That was the maximum stake races. Here we are in a $75,000 stake race for her stake. As they broke out of the gate, Angel's next. He's last. They came in the stretch. Who's on the lead was Yakaza. And him and Yakaza went head and head, nose to nose. And lucky enough, bingo, Angel bobbed him, and we won the race. And as he comes back to the winner's circle, they took his picture, and he jumped sky high, like Avelino Gomez was the first to ever do that. And later, Frankie, the kid from the Tories, copied them. So they caught him in midair. So the next day, we're at the racetrack in the morning. I get the New York Daily News, and there's Cordero's picture in the back of the thing, flying high. And that was how we got started. And I say to Angel, when I talk to him, Angel right now is the agent for Franco and for Johnny Velasquez, and he does a great job as an agent. Every time I say to him, Angel, where would you be and where would I be if I didn't go to college with John Jacobs and then his dad, the leading trainer of America, gave us an opportunity to show your talent? And think about that, Mike. If we didn't have that opportunity, I don't think you would be talking to me today. I would probably never got a top rider in my life. But that's just how my life began, from 7 years of struggling. So eventually I learned my craft. God gave me the jockeys with the tools, and the rest for us to be a team. And here I am having 8 Hall of Fame jockeys. And I get excited talking about my career. As I always say to people, never give up. Believe in yourself and just keep struggling and work for it. And one day you'll get lucky. And that's what happened to me.
All right, now, from reading a little bit about your career, you want to talk a little bit about Sam Winiger, who was a private clocker who seemed to have a huge influence on your life, too.
Yes, that I always tell that story to everyone. I was living next door in the Fleabag Hotel, and Sam lived at the Whitman Hotel. And eventually when Braulio Baeza came in from Panama, I met Braulio then. He was riding for Mr. Hooper, and he didn't talk much English, and we had become friends at that time. But Sam took a liking to me, because I'd go next door where he was at. I'd go in the luncheonette and get a coffee or a sandwich. And he said to me, Vince, you want to go to the track with me in the morning? I said, what am I going to do with you, Sam? He said, well, I clock horses, and I bet on horses for a living, and maybe you can get an insight. I can teach you some things. Okay, fine. So I get in his car. We drive out, and he would clock all the horses, and he said, mark this name down and put the marking down on every time I tell you what the horse is wearing, and blinkers on, blah, blah. So I did all that. And then he said to me, watch that horse. He's going pretty sore. I said, I don't know a sore horse. I don't know what he's talking about. He said, I'm going to teach you to when sore horses, when they warm up, then they come out of it, they can be arthritic. We'll teach you all of that. I'd be doggone if he didn't teach me all of that. So now, in the afternoon, he bet his own money, and he'd say to me, that horse in the one hole, he's 2-1. I clocked him recently. He had blinkers on. He worked great. No blinkers on today. He said, that horse is not going to get nothing. I'm going to bet this one and that one. You bet 2 horses, Vince. You bet the long shot $20, and you bet 10 on the favorite, so you get your money back. But he started teaching me all of those things, Mike, which were so beneficial, because then I learned about when I saw sore horses, and some of them, they come out of it, and some don't, and they stay sore throughout the race. And then I watch them when they come back after the race, when they pull up, to make sure that they're okay when they pull up, because that's when you can really see if the horse is really sore right at that moment. So Sam Winiger will always be in my heart. He took the time for a kid that didn't know anything, and he taught me so much.
Yeah, and when we look at this, I mean, you've seen all the great horses from 1960 to now. How about talking about one in particular that stands out to me that everybody always mentions, Secretariat and, Affirmed, Alidara, all these other famous horses. But you had a horse like Kelso, who 5 straight years won the Horse of the Year. What do you remember about that horse?
I remember so clearly with him. He was ugly. He was a bastard. I used to get around him in the morning because I would go by. Carol was riding him, and Ira Hanford was the trainer. And I was very, very, how can I say, excited to be around him, because our Carol always talked about him. And funny, this is another true story about Kelso. As I'm in the house with Eddie, and the phone rang, and I don't know who's on the other end, but all I could hear him say, Mrs. DuPont, you're not going to know how good he is, okay? Don't tell me to let him run. If I let him run, he's going to be in the hands of the secretary who weighs 140 pounds. And I'm sitting there, so holy shit, he's telling Mrs. DuPont, who owned Kelso then, this is the way it's going to be. Wow. So I got closer to Kelso through our Carol, and I said to him one day, Eddie, you told me the greatest horse you ever rode was Citation. Is he still number one in your life? He said, no, I didn't think anybody could beat Citation for me. He said, but it's Kelso. Kelso was the push-button horse. No matter whatever I did with him, he was ready to roll when I asked him to run. And half of the time I never let him run because of the racing secretary going to put a lot of weight on him. And to further go on what you said, Mike, not only was the 5-time year horse of the year, the fact when he was an old man, he won the Washington, D.C. International on the turf when they said he could never win on the turf. So that is what I remember about Kelso. And he carried more weight. And then I was around Forgo, who was another champion, carried weight, 136 pounds, 137. And at that time, the feet broke his collarbone, and I'm in Saratoga, which is my hometown, and Helio Gastinus, who I knew, didn't have an agent at the time. He said, Vince, Lafitte's done. Why don't you take my book? I'm riding Forgo. Wow. So now I started being around Forgo. I saw that horse every day, Mike, in ice. He had ankles big as your head, and they kept him in ice all the time, and they kept him so much butte to keep him functioning all the time. And you saw how great he was, 17 hands hard, and sore most of his life and champion. So I remember those two in my life for sure. And, of course, I can tell you another thing. When I was at Pinkerton, I remember there was supposed to be a match race between Albert G. Vanderbilt, the gray horse who was undefeated until he got defeated in the Kentucky Derby by Dark Star, and Green Tree had a horse named Tom Fool, little horse, but he carried 135, 136, and Ted Atkinson used to ride him for Green Tree, and Native Dancer was his name. And so now I'm in the paddock, and they came in the schooling. There's going to be a match race the next day. I said, look at it, the two champions. Here I am right around these. I was so excited. And the next day, Alfred Vanderbilt scratched. He didn't want to run against Tom Fool, afraid he was going to get beat. But that's two great horses. I had the opportunity to be right there when they were schooling.
All right. Now, the other interesting, amazing thing about your life is your roommate in service was Bob Uecker, who, of course, I still think today is the play-by-play voice for the Milwaukee Brewers. And also, Dick Grote was a lifelong friend of yours who played shortstop next to Bill Mazeroski.
That's correct. And I was in the Army. We were together in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And I was playing with basketball with Dick Grote. We would travel all over the country playing basketball, and then when baseball season came around, of course, I was playing first base, and Bob Uecker was the catcher, and of course, shortstop was Dick Grote. And we just got through baseball practice, and Grote was a fanatic with basketball, and it was one of those hot days, and the Coke machine was right there between the left side of the baseball field, the right was inside where we played basketball, and Grote's hollering, come on, Vince, we're going to play basketball. Man, I'm drinking a Coca-Cola. Just take your time. Come on, hurry up. So in those days, you had the Coke bottle, and you had the wooden rack. So I'm not paying attention, and I'm drinking, and he says, come on. So I turned around, and I dropped the bottle in the rack, not looking, and when I went down with my left arm, the blood comes shooting all over the place, and here comes Bob Uecker. Uecker come running. He got about 8 or 10 towels, rushed me to the hospital, and they operated on my left wrist. And that was the end of my baseball career. We're going to, for the Dodgers, taking me after I got out of service, and that was 1955. So that was the end of my career. But Bob Uecker and I were good buddies, and so was Dick Grote. And happy to later on that when Uecker got into, he was a catcher, and he always used to say, I couldn't hit the ball, but he was averaged 200 throughout his career. But he was a great friend, and it's funny that Willie Davis was with the Dodgers, and then he lived with me in Hollywood, and he was playing for the Angels, and he said to me, you know who's coming in town? Bob Uecker. You said you know Uecker. I said, what do you mean? Yeah, I know Uecker. He said, yeah, well, I'm going to ask him if he knows you. I said, go ahead. Tell him I'm the agent for Chris McCarron at that time. So he came back, and he woke me up. He said, Uecker said he wants to see you tomorrow. I said, well, you thought I didn't know him, huh? He said, yeah, you better be at the ball game tomorrow. So, of course, I went and I spent about a half an hour with Bob talking about our days in the Army, and he said, Grote found out about you, that you're one of the great agents in horse racing, and he's very happy for you. He said, but he thought you had the talent. I said, what are you going to do? God had a different answer for me. I broke that bottle on my wrist. That was the end of my career. So as it turned out, I'm in New York with Pinkay, and Grote's in town. The Pirates are playing the Mets, and I go there early for batting practice, and as I walked down, he just got to come out of the batting cage. I hollered down and said, hey, you ugly so-and-so. And he looked up and he saw me. Vince, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here with my jockey. Jockey? I said, yeah, I'm an agent for the leading jockey in America named Chris McCarron. He said, you probably could have been down here. I said, no, God had a better plan for me. I'm happy that it happened that I couldn't further my baseball career. I probably wouldn't have been a good ball player. He said, oh, you had the talent. I said, that's what you think. But I'm happy I'm a jock agent. So that's another part of my life of being an athlete and being around some great ball players, and I'm happy about that, Mike.
All right, so let's talk about the Kentucky Derby. What was the first Kentucky Derby you attended with a jockey who was riding in the race, and what was that moment like for you?
Well, it was with Lafitte Pinkay. I had Cordero, and of course Angel was new, and we never got the opportunity to really ride in the Kentucky Derby. And I remember when we were studying all the records, and Ellendorf had a horse, and they wanted Angel to go ride the horse. I said, I'm not going to send him to ride a 50-1 shot in the Kentucky Derby. We can ride 8 horses here, and we make enough money. I'm not going to go to the Derby. And they can convince me. He said, listen, how about if we give you $5,000 in cash? $5,000 in cash? Man, that sounded good. So the first experience I had was with Cordero. He rode a horse for Ellendorf, and he went off 50-1. He got beat a quarter of a mile. But we made some money out of it. Angel wanted so much just to be in the Kentucky Derby. And from that time on, I was with him from 68 to 69. Then we came to California, and they went on a strike here. He decided to leave, wanted me to go. I stayed here, and I took Pinkay. Well, anyway, I forgot the year that the 71, I think it was. I forgot who the horse was. It was for Claiborne Farm. I became a good friend of Seth Hancock, and the horse went off, I guess, 5 or 6 to 1. And that horse from Argentina, or where the hell he was from the 20 hole, he won the race, and we ran up the racetrack. And the next year, we rode another horse for Mr. Steelixson, and he got beat. And finally, in 1973, we're riding Sham, and I went with Frank Martin. There were so many people there. We didn't have a box. We were standing on the bleachers, and we see the horses coming in the stretch, and here Sham is chasing the leader. He finally went by the leader, and here comes Secretariat. We not only broke the track record, he broke that record as well, Secretariat. And that was the greatest thrill of my lifetime. As Lafitte always says, Sam came at the wrong time. And so now we go to the Preakness, and we think we're going to beat Secretariat. And he beat us again. And Lafitte come back. He was a little kind of dejected. I didn't go to the Preakness. And he said to me, I hope Frank doesn't run this horse against Secretariat in the Belmont. His heart is broken. I really feel that way, Vince. I said, how am I going to tell Frank Martin you're not going to go ride him in the Belmont? When we go back to New York to fight for leading rider with Cordero, he's our number one guy. He'll stop using us. He said, all right, I'll go. And, of course, the rest thing happened. After 3/4 of a mile, he pulled Sham up. And, of course, Secretariat won by 31 lengths. And I was excited. My buddy was Joe Schiavone was the agent for Ronnie Turcotte, who I'm very good friends with to this day. He texts me all the time. And I was happy for Ronnie. And so my experience in the Kentucky Derby, I finished second. It was the only time because from Pinkay, then I had Daryl McHarg, and then it took me time to get McCarron going, and eventually he beat Cordero in Pinkay in New York with me. He won 405 races as well as being the leading money rider. So talking about the Derby, it's fantastic to be in it, but eventually you're going through the crowds, and normally what happens, Mike, you have to get out of there to catch a plane back so you can ride here the next day. And so I remember the day we rode Sham, we had to go walk through the infield to get to the other side where the barn was to get a taxi to get out of there, and got back in time to be able to come back and win 4 races the next day here in Santa Anita. So, I mean, at Hollywood Park. So, it's just it's great to be there. But after a while, if you don't go there with the guns, it takes all the excitement out of it, Mike.
All right. Let's go ahead. Bobby, you got any questions? Because I think, Vince, we could do this another time and probably do a 6-hour show if you want.
I enjoy talking.
Only 6?
Well, 6 at a time. How about that? Let's see.
Well, I've already tweeted out what an amazing guy we have on right now, Mike. This is unbelievable. Legendary guy, knows everybody, and such a great memory and such a great speaker too. Thank you very much for coming on. And my question.
Sure.
That's great, and I do hope you come back too. We'll expand some more. But
tell me, I'll be glad to do it.
That's great. In 1986, we have an On This Day feature we do in all of our shows, and we usually finish with it, but I'm going to duck it in here in the middle because we're talking Kentucky Derby past. In 1986, on this day, was the day that Bill Shoemaker won aboard Ferdinand. Can you tell me your memories of Shoemaker and the horse Ferdinand?
Well, it's quite odd that in my days when Arcaro rented the home, he was the man. He would talk to Shoe and show a lot of horses to ride, and I met Shoe at that time. I wasn't even a jockey agent when I met Shoe and his agent, Terry Silbert, and after time had gone on, and then I got to California with Cordero, and Shoe said to me, "You're the guy who was in the house with Arcaro." I said, "Yeah, that's me." He said, "How the hell did you get to be such a good agent?" I said, 7 years of struggling took me to become a good agent. I needed a good, talented rider to show my ability, for him to show his, for me to get him on the runners. So that's how we became friends. And as time progressed, King K, bringing up Shoemaker, we just got being together, and we're about 11 winners behind. It's in his book today. We're about 11 winners behind, and we went to have dinner at the Talk of the Town. And the next day I had to fly to Florida. We were honoring Chick Lang. I was the president of the Jockey Agents Guild. And as we're in the bar, and I said, Lafitte, I got to get out of here. I got to get home. I got to catch this plane in the morning. I said, when you're only 11 winners behind Shoemaker, when I get back, you're going to be fighting leading rider. They laughed at me. I took the condition book out and I slammed it on the table. Let me tell you something, Jock. I don't need you. If you don't believe you're the best rider, don't waste my time. I just had a jock named Cordero. Everybody said he couldn't make it. He's the leading rider of America. What do you want to tell me, Lafitte? You think that you can't make it? When I come back, you tell me who your agent is. I'll go to Florida and take Cordero's book. But I got to like California. So anyway, I left. And when I got back into Florida, I called, and Lafitte's wife answered the phone. May she rest in peace. And I said, "Linda, how did Lafitte do today?" She said, "Oh, he did good. He won 3 races." And I said, "How about Shoe?" She said, "He didn't win any." Okay, we're 8 behind then. So the next night I'm at the ball, and it's around 9:30 their time, and it was 6:30 in California. And I called, and Lafitte answered the phone, and Lafitte, how did we do? And he said, "We won 5 races." He wasn't excited. That was just him. I said, "You won 5. How about Shoemaker?" He said, "He didn't win any." I said, "You won the stakes with Ted Selden and Rising Market." He said, "Yes." I said, "Good. When I get back, tell me who your agent is." So I hung the phone up. I flew back. And as it turned out, we were 3 behind. And nobody ever defeated Shoemaker. That's why I'm bringing this story to you. So the next day when I'm at the racetrack in the morning, I said to him, "Did you decide who your agent is?" "What do you mean? You're my agent." I said, "Well, you told me you don't believe you could beat Shoemaker. Don't waste my time. Because if you don't think you can, you never will." "Oh, no, I will beat him." So now Harry Silbert is the agent for Shoe, and they were going head and head. And, of course, we got him. As Shoe got to be old, and Lafitte's a young kid, 21 years old. And we became great friends from that point on. So throughout Shoe's career, things he got a little older, and was around 1982. I was 82. He was riding John Henry. And he called me up. He said, "Vince, I need you to help me." I said, "What do you want, Shoe?" He said, you got to take my book. His agent, Harry, got sick with cancer. I said, Shu, I'm a good agent, but I'm not God. He said, what? I said, you hear what I said? I'm a good agent, but I'm not God. By the way, Shu, the way you're going, I think you should retire now. He said, retire? I said, yeah, you're going down the drain. You're not riding for Charlie Whittingham. And it's a disgrace for this to happen. And he kept being persistent. You got to take my book. I know you'll help me. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go to the barn tomorrow and see Charlie. So I drove over to Hollywood Park. It was the last day, and I knew Charlie when I was a young kid. He was running at my uncle's house. I was about 12 years old when I first met Charlie. He was an assistant trainer from Horatio Luro. That's who he learned from. So I got over there, and Rodney Rash, may he rest in peace, he was there with taking the stocks, taking the horses out and shipping them over to Santa Anita. He said, what happened, Vince? I said, I got to talk to you about Shu. He said, talk to me tomorrow. Come over to Santa Anita. So I got over there, and I knocked on the door and opened up, and Charlie said, Rodney, go out and shut the door. So he said to me, what's going on? I said, look, Pops, Shu wants me to take his book, and it's a disaster what's going on with you and him. I don't know what the hell you guys did, but you're the champion with him. All of a sudden, you stopped using him. Everybody else decided, well, now he got old, that that's an excuse for him not to use him. Now, what do you want to do? He said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. You're going to take his book, and you're going to give up John Henry. I said, I don't know John Henry. I don't know what the deal is. He said, here's what it is. You take the book, tell Shu he's giving up John Henry. Okay, all right. He said, you'll ride all the horses again. So I run down to the stable office, and there's a payphone. I put the quarter in, and Shu's wife answers the phone. I said, put Shu on the phone. And so she did. I said, listen, Shu, here's what's going to happen. You take the deal, I'm your agent. You don't take the deal, I'm not your agent. Charlie said, you're going to give up John Henry, and I'm going to be your agent. He said, but that's no problem. It isn't. I'm your temporary agent now. Don't get me in trouble with Ron McAnally. I knew McAnally long before in New York in '62 when he brought the Donor King there. You got to tell him. All right, I'll tell him. So now we start riding for Charlie. He had a horse called the Wonder Boy. And pretty soon we're winning all the races again. And finally McAnally sees me. He said, tell the little man John Henry's coming in tomorrow. What? He never told Ron. I said, Shu, you never told McAnally. He said to me, the horse is going to be here tomorrow. Man, don't give this shit to me. He said, all right, I'll take care of it. He didn't go see McAnally. The next day, I'm up in the box. And McAnally said, I went down to the jock's room. I knew something was wrong. Well, what happened? He said, Shu told me he got to ride for Charlie, and he can't ride John Henry. That's how McCarran inherited John Henry. Oh, because of Shu getting back with me, with Charlie Whittingham. So, and that was the greatest thrill for me to work for Shu. Shu was easygoing, laid back, like Liffey. Never said to me, I don't want to ride for this horse. I don't want to ride for that trainer. Just whatever you do, Vince, you're in charge. We know you're going to do the best. So I loved Shu, and when he wound being paralyzed, it broke my heart because when I see him in that wheelchair, he would never feel sorry for himself or anybody. He'd always laugh and smile with you. And to see you had to blow into that little thing to get the thing to move. And every time he would see me in Del Mar, I'm near the jock's room, he'd come out of there like he was going to run me over with that wheelchair, kidding around with me. But my memory of Shu is nothing but happiness and gladness that I was his agent.
Oh, man, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Vince.
All right,
I have
Vince,
some.
go ahead.
They come out,
Well, do you want to stay with us to break down tomorrow's Kentucky Derby, or do you need to go?
Why not? Why not? I'm
right.
here.
All right.
I'm glad
That's
to do
what I like to
anything
hear.
here.
All right, Phil. What do we got here? My first question.
Well,
my buddy Bill.
My first question is
I'm
this.
here.
We
Okay,
talked
Bill.
about the 1986 and Ferdinand. We've got the War of Will, who was the unfortunate victim of the rail draw. Does he have any chance from there?
I'll tell you what I have, and maybe this will help your listeners. I'm very, 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 how can I say, statistically involved where people are in a losing streak and the percentages are not good, I go against them. And people are doing good, I go with them. Now, I do have a breakdown post position order for all the Kentucky Derbies, and maybe this will be helpful to some people listening, and I can tell you what it is. Okay, in post number 1, there was 89 chances. It has 8 winners out of the 89. That's 9% winners. And then we're going to go to the 2. He's got 7 out of 89. The 3 has 5 of 89. The 4 has 5 of 89. But then it gets interesting. The 5 has got the most, 10 winners of 89 starts out of the 5 hole. Number 6, 2 winners out of 89. And the 7 has got 7 winners. The 8 has got 8 winners. The 9 has 4. Now the 10 has got 9 for 82. Another very good post. Number 11's only got 2 winners out of 78 chances. I would not bet on that horse with your money. That's just statistically, that's the way I look at it. And then the 12 horse has got 3 for 74. 13 is 5 for 72. 14 is 2 for 64. Another one, 64 chances and you win 2. I can't bet on him. That's me. Okay, let's go to 17. 0 for 40. Never won from the 17 hole, whoever the horse was. Number 18 is win 1 for 32. 19 is 1 for 27. And 20 was 1 for 17. So breaking it down, we have with 2 scratches in the race. Now you go with number 16, game winner. He went from 4 winners to 47. Now he's in the 14 hole. He's only won 2. Whoever the horses were, won 2 out of 64. My first choice was Omaha Beach and the horse for game winner. I was impressed with him, but I'll tell you the thing, Mike, the last 2 times, he had from the 8th hole to the wire to go by both horses, and he got to them, and he just hung. To me, this is my personal feeling. I think he's now to the point that he doesn't want to win. So I'm going to root for my ex-jockey, Joel Rosario, but I would not bet on him. That's my personal feeling. So between the field, I like the 1, the 5, and the 7 is where they have the best statistical chances. But then I broke it down from the last buyer, who had the best buyer. The 5 horse had the 209 rating. The 7 had a 203. We go to the 16, which is game winner. He's 198, so he's 3rd in that slot as well. So with me, I will bet both horses, the 5 and the 7, and put the 1 in there if I play trifecta boxes, because they win all the races, those posts. And they're all good mounts, so that's what I will. I got one stat for you, Mike. The last 7 Kentucky Derby winners had a combined 0 losses as a 3-year-old. There's only one horse in the Kentucky Derby that is 4 for 4, and that's the number 7 horse. And by the way, that's who Eddie Delahousie told me he likes.
That's
so
maximum security, correct?
Undefeated.
Is it maximum security?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So with that stat, he's the only horse that's undefeated in there. And the last 7 Derby winners were all undefeated. He fits that profile, and he has good form. So he won the Florida Derby the last time out. So I mean, me, if I'm gambling, I'd bet both horses. They're probably going to be 8, 10 to 1 each. And it's not bad. If one wins, you pays $18. You put up 4, you made $14 for a $2 bet. But I think the proper way to do it is take shots and trifectas, because you're going to get astronomical figures if you get hit, if you get lucky. If you beat the favorites, big numbers.
Yeah.
So now, who do you like?
I was going to ask you about this horse. This is not a horse that this is not a horse I think is going to win, but I've seen a lot of people pick Tacitus. What's your take on that horse?
Tacitus, he's won his last 3 races. The question is, when he won in Tampa Bay Downs, I don't know who he beat in that race to think that I could see how much class was behind him. But then he was lucky enough to come back and he beat that horse at scratch, High Cal. And High Cal was 30 to 1 morning line. So I don't think he beat much, but it's hard to knock his record. What does the 8 hole bring? 8's got 8 winners out of 88. That's good. I can't knock that.
Well, how about this? I know he won the Wood Memorial, which, when I was growing up, was historically a key prep for the Kentucky Derby. But the Wood Memorial has not produced a top 3 finisher in the Derby since 2003 also.
But you know what happened, Mike? Because of that, it seemed like the California horses throughout the years are beating all the New York horses. Whenever they hook them, they beat them. And in the last 10 years, California horses have been dominant in the Kentucky Derby, and Baffert's the proof of that as well. So I think the California horses is causing that to be the reason why New York is not beating and not winning as many derbies, because of the California horses.
Now, in your opinion, do we have any long shots here that could pay off tomorrow?
Looking at it, I always try to find some sneaker. And now, you didn't ask me about Roadster. And all my friends said, how can you not like Roadster? I said, the only reason I tell you why I don't like Roadster, he had a throat operation, and he came, and he was in a small field, and he got up to beat, who did he beat? Game Winner.
So, to me, Game Winner didn't try to go by him. And if he had a throat problem then, why would I want to bet on him now? And hopefully he's clear of it. And when I helped Martin Garcia last year, I knew Bob Baffert for a long time, and he was good to me when I had the leading jockey from Canada named Emil Ramsamy. And in Delmar that one year, he put us on about 8 winners. So I know Bob, had a lot of affiliations with him. And I'm going to say this to you, Mike. I think he's one of the greatest trainers of all time. When he puts a horse in a race and has been away a long time, 90 times out of 100, his horses will not get beat. Most of the trainers go easy on their horses, and they don't train them to be effective the first time out. A lot of the old-timers, the first time out, they tell the jock, don't beat him up. Let's go for the next race. But with Baffert, he wants to win now all the time, and his record is phenomenal. And this horse, he's got 3 in the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. And all 3 have a good chance, but I personally think the best one is Improbable. Game Winner, I still think he's a hanger. Maybe he'll make a liar out of me tomorrow. But a long shot, I was trying to figure the one hole probably would be the one for me if you want to call it a long shot. I do think he fits the profile. War of Will, I think he fits the profile. I think with the scratches are going to help him come up a few more out of the stall. Instead of being down in, he's going to move out a couple. That's going to help him have more room when he comes out running, because he's got enough speed to be in contention.
Yeah, because isn't he more of a presser, early speed type of horse?
I think he's going to have to be like 3 or 4 lengths off the pace from the one hole when he goes. And looking at it objectively, there's Van Dyke is on the 4, who's the speedball, Gray Magician, Improbable. He's going to be right in the garden spot as well. And Maximum Security, he's a speed horse. So he's going to be up there fighting for the lead with the 4. And there's a few more on the outside. And Game Winner, he has to be up close. He can't come from way out of it. And so I personally think the one is going to be in the right spot. If he can break good and tuck in behind them, be 2 or 3 lengths and get a little off into the first turn and get his horse to relax and get away from that dirt hitting him in the face, he could win. That's my long shot play is that one there.
All right. Vince, do you have any take on tomorrow's race? I'm sure you do.
Phil.
No, I was
Do
talking
I?
to Vince. I was talking to Vince.
You were talking to Vince the whole time.
No, I was talking to Phil, and then I was talking to Vince, right?
No,
or did I get it backwards?
No, you were. No, you weren't talking to me. I was listening to my old buddy, the old wise one. Is not called the old wise one for nothing. Let me tell you that.
All right.
Right
Well,
now.
I've also been known to say the wrong name before, so go ahead, Phil.
Well, after listening to my buddy, we know what Mr. Baffert does, and I had no influence on the trainer being on my rated horses. My system that I use is it's 40 plus years of burning my eyes out reading the racing form. And I had a gentleman tell me, I see that you handicap very well. What do you do? And I said, I read the racing form. And how long does it take you to conduct and complete a race? And I said, about 3 hours. He says, what do you have? A mental formula? And I says, yeah, I've got it written down pretty much. And I use the same key factors for every horse, close to 40. He says, why don't you put that into an Excel program to save yourself many a moons? And I said, okay. how does it work? And I says, my problem is I just don't think that a computer can take the variables that go into what I do and come up with something. He says, yes, it can. It can do anything if you put the right input. And I found a gentleman in Canada that was doing the same thing I was, handicapping and reading the racing form. And he was told the same thing, and he did something about it. He went to college, talked to professor. Professor says, yeah, you can do just about anything and get a data program put together and make this work and save yourself a lot of time. Well, that happened for me thanks to my friend in Canada. And so I have not bought a racing form probably in 4 or 5 years. But all my figures and ratings is based on the daily racing form. You guys are reading it 3 and 4 hours. I can do a race card that used to take me 3 hours with this program and a data file from Brisnet, DRF, and put my figures into that data file, and it takes about 7 minutes to come up with the same conclusion that it used to take me 3 hours. And so laughing with my buddy there, the old wise one, detailing the horses, he did an excellent job. Vince, I'm really proud of you. You really handicapped that race well. But here's what my figures come up with. My card that I put out is not a tote. I do not tout people to bet certain horses and say, this horse will win, you got to bet that horse in the 8th race, blah, blah, blah. I don't do that. I have formulated numbers that work at a high percentage, and I put it out there for people to integrate it with their own handicapping because it has a high value percentage of wins in the 70-80% range. And that's not, I'm not kidding, it really does. I want to give you the figures for tomorrow in the Kentucky Derby. The top 7 horses in rating order. The reason why I give 7 horses in a race that has 7 or more horses is to cover any scratches that may occur. The worst thing you can do is put out something with just, let's say, 4 high-rated numbers and then 3 of them are scratched. Well, that only leaves 1. So I formulate 7 rated numbers on each race card, and if there's scratches, you have backups. And I'm going to give you the Kentucky Derby. The whole race card for Churchill is available through Mike's website. There's a link there. You can pull the whole Churchill down card for every race that I've formulated. And today, for the Oaks card, it did very poorly. I can tell you that it didn't do well today. But that's horse racing. Some days you don't do well. Next days you knock their socks off. But anyway, the Kentucky Derby breakdown, which is race 12, the rating number for the top-rated horse is a 622. Now that number is all these nearly 40 handicapping factors with a point system, and that happens to be the number 16 horse, Game Winner, Mr. Baffert. The second-rated horse is the 5, Improbable, Mr. Baffert. The third-rated horse is number 17, Roadster. The fourth-rated horse is the 8, Tacticus. But you notice that the top 3 rated horses with my formulated program is Baffert, and he wins how many derbies in a row now? Well, we know Triple Crowns. This is not biased. I didn't plug any extra numbers in there just because it was Baffert. It just turned out that way. I was surprised when I saw it. Game Winner is a 622. The 5th rated horse, which was scratched, was the 12 horse for Mandela. I wanted him to run, but Omaha Beach was rated 5th. He had a 516 total rating versus a 622. But Game Winner 622, 587 for Improbable, 552 for Roadster, and 518 for tactics. What does that mean? That means they're awful close. When you get numbers that close together, it's going to be a good race. And you got to look out for any roach that may occur in that race. That you guys were talking about that one horse. His advantage now is he's going to be out too from the rail, which will be helpful to him. But people can pull the whole card up and just see. I mean, we have some nice examples. I was telling Bobby the other day. I know Bobby used to follow me quite a bit, but he kind of curtailed his horse racing to. He's got a lot on his plate. He doesn't really have time to do horse racing as far as the betting is concerned. I noticed that. But he's doing well with his other sports. But I was telling him there was a race at Golden Gate, which we happen to do in our multi-track handicapping. In the 5th race at Golden Gate one day last week, the top 4 rated horses, based on this formula, scored in the superfecta. All 4 of them were in the superfecta. If you played a $1 box on those 4 horses, it cost you $24. It paid $10,480. Now that gives you a hell of a lot of $24 plays. And I have some customers that say, Phil, when you point out a program or a race that occurred that you happen to have, this isn't unusual. This happens all the time. I do a report every night on the major tracks that we formulate. What we try to do is do at least one track for Kentucky, one from New York, one from Florida, and one from California. But a lot of times we will put 6 tracks on our multi-track program for people to download and buy subscriptions or go one day or whatever. Give it a try. It works. But don't use me as a tout. It's a program to use with your own handicapping to save you a lot of time. And let me just say this, it works. But that's the breakdown on the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. I mean, somewhat close to Vince. I mean, he talked a lot about the Baffert horses. We have them in the top 3 along with the 8 in the 4th slot. So if anybody's interested, the Omaha Beach was the 5th rated. The 7 and the 20 fill out that field as far as our ratings are concerned. So there may be a long shot in that 7 and the 20.
All righty.
Well, and Vince
Mike?
liked the 7. Vince really liked
What's
the 7,
that?
so that I feel good about
How
that.
Yeah, he did.
How about guys that the forecast tomorrow is flop, and the horse that really liked the off track was Improbable, and Omaha Beach has never run on that kind of track, so you got to take that into consideration when you're handicapping tomorrow, how the racetrack is going to be by race time, and make adjustments if some horses can't handle an off track, and ones that do like it, make more of a wager on them, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, Omaha Beach is scratched, so we don't have to worry about him. He was a player. I mean, even though he ranked 5th on my ratings, he was not that far away from those other horses. But this is a very contentious Derby. Improbable, I think he'll run his best race. We have him rated 2nd. I don't fudge. One of the things that people have to realize that might be listening to this, our numbers are non-biased. There are handicappers out there that handicap on bias. They have certain things that they use. No one that I know puts a program together with nearly 40 handicapping factors without any bias. That program is what I initiated. There's no bias in what we do. It's raw numbers, and each horse gets the same formula. If my buddy or friend owns a horse, I don't give him extra points. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And
The way
so
it feels, I think what used to hurt me, Phil, was I had too much bias because I like Tyler Bays. I like him a lot, and I like Flavien Prat now, and and back in the day I loved Gary Stevens and McCarron, and of course they were Hall of Fame jockeys, so I had some winners. But I bet jockeys too much, and I have too much bias.
They can't carry the horse across the wire. That formula number that I put out, that rating number, is based on the horse. Yeah, some of the points that was formulated in that might come from the jockeys as far as, but low. I mean, when I do the jockeys, the jockeys in the top 3 or whatever, money earned or whatever, it's low points. They're not running. They're just riding. Rosario's on that game winner. I mean, Vince knows Rosario. He had his book. I remember his first year book that he had. He won over 50 races at Santa Anita with this kid.
Yeah.
I sat with Vince, and I can remember Vince. I used to get such a kick out of Vince. The kid would win a race, and Vince would get on the telephone before the kid could get back to the jock's room, and he was beating him up about something. A hell of an experience sitting around Vince DeGregory. He is the old wise one. He is my buddy and the old wise one.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
Thank
Vince,
you very much, Bill.
it was a complete honor to have you on the show tonight.
I'm very happy to have been able to be a guest on your show.
And we would love to have you back again sometime.
Anytime, you just call me in advance and let me know, and I'll make sure that I'll be available for you. And
Always like to
be helpful to the fans.
remember when I was young, I always wanted to be around people that were successful and see if I could learn what made them so successful. And sometimes me being on the shows, maybe I can help somebody out in their handicapping skills, and be glad to give my insight at any time.
All right.
Hey,
Bill,
Mike.
What? Yeah.
Mike, I want to jump in and say one thing. The next time we have Vince on, don't schedule a show after this one. You're gonna be running into trouble.
I know, but it happens to me all the time because, we've had guests before for 2 hours, so maybe Vince could break the record next time.
Anytime. I like telling about my experiences, and so many times people have called me about doing a book, and now being at my age, and I said, you know what, racing has been great to me. Help guys become champions and then fire you for no one reason. I don't want to say some things in the book that are going to put some of them champions down because of the why they fired me, and I help make them champions, and I can't do that. We're good friends today, Pinkay and McCarran, and we're just buddies. So whatever happened at that time, for them, leading Rider of America 5 straight years with me, Pinkay. I got back to California with my wife. I got fired. How do you figure that out?
It's Chris McCarran. He come begging me to take his book, and I gave up Marco Castaneda. Chris finished second the first time. The next 2 years, he's the leading Rider of America in the winning money title.
And then fired me. So how do you figure it out? You help them
Hey,
become
Vince.
champions. Yeah.
I want to say this as a friend. When Bobby, who I've known through baseball for a while, and horse racing, asked me to come on the show because of the handicapping guide. And I've been following Mike now for not very long, but I enjoy, since I got on the program and started listening. The key is where legends speak, and when they called me to be on the show, the only legend I knew in horse racing was you, Vince DeGregory, and I really personally appreciate you joining me and being my partner in crime tonight. I really appreciate it.
I'm very happy to and appreciate the compliments, Phil. You know that I enjoyed every day with you at Santa Anita up there trying to pick winners and get to meet you personally, and happy that you're successful with your handicapping, and always wish you the best, as you know.
Well, you were a good friend, and we had some good times together when you were without a jock and you were trying to make a few bucks through the windows and sitting with me, and we had some good times and some good laughs. And I think about, I have to laugh when I think about you and Matt Garcia, the jockey who used to come around and sit at my table. I like that kid. Well, at that time, he was about 30, 31 years old. Remember, you had his book once, and then you were without a jock, and I remember that just like it was yesterday, sitting there at the table, Matt saying, Vince, come on, take my book. And you said, Matt, there's no way. We've been through this once before. And he kept hounding you, and you said, look, the first thing would happen that would just make me throw you in the trash would be I'm out busting my butt trying to get you mounts with these trainers. 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, I go into a trainer and say, can you give my jock? I'm taking care of. I got Matt Garcia, and the trainer's going to say, no, wait a minute now. You have Matt again? I just saw Matt in the 100-to-1 club last night at 10 o'clock. Pounding down. You know what? I never forgot that. I laugh every time I think about it. I have to laugh. And God bless Matt. I like Matt. And I once in a while you see him pop up on a horse. What do you know is going on with him? Do you know anything about what he's doing right now?
The last I talked to Matt, he got married to this lady, and they have up in Bradbury. He got a big home up there, and he's got cats and dogs and horses on the farm, and he's leasing out some of the area to other people. So he's holding on, doing okay.
Oh, good for him. I'm glad.
Yes.
I'm really glad. That's nice to hear. But I had some laughs with you guys. You guys were back and forth all the time.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, Phil.
Okay, Mike. I appreciate you having me. Tell your guests if they want the whole card at no charge, they can come on. There should be a link on your website.
There'll be
one up.
There'll be one up before midnight tonight. We will have that up. I've got a guy working on it right now, actually, Jeremiah. So make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.com. Also, Phil, tell them where they can find the handicapping guide.
Well, it's pretty simple. The easiest way to do it is if you go to the Grueling Truth podcast. Down the bottom, we have a little ad there that says THG, the handicapping guide. Click on that, and it gives you the information on how to get to us. That's the simplest way of doing it.
Yes, it is. And Bobby Sheridan with the Sheridan Report. You can get Bobby's report at Sheridan Report. You can go to SheridanReport.com, $10 a day, $50 a month. And I think, Phil, there's great value with what you do on your guide, and you want to tell people what they get each day for their money?
Well, I have a lot of people that tell me, you don't charge enough. I said, let me tell you something. I do one. It doesn't cost me any extra if 1,000 people order it. Or one. It's the same cost. I mean, I generate it, and I work on it in the mornings and try to get it all done by 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the following day. And the race card is peanuts. Costs you very little. It gives you savings and burning your eyes out looking at the form, and it has more information into those numbers than you're ever going to handicap on your own. But use it as a tool with your own handicap. And if you feel you have to handicap a race, that's part of the gig of horse racing and enjoyment of it, which it is with a lot of guys. It's the puzzle they like doing. I've done 90% of the puzzle. Take the 90%, put your 10 in, and make some money. Very affordable. If a guy only wanted to do it for one day, you're going to get the multi-track, which tomorrow is 6 tracks. You're going to have 6 tracks, which will be Churchill Downs. You'll have Belmont. You'll have Santa Anita. You'll have Golden Gate. You'll have Oaklawn and Gulfstream. There's the 6 tracks you have with a complete card of every race with all the numbers. Every race will have a minimum of 4 up to 7 horses, depending on the size of the fields. We'll have 7 if there are 7 or 8 more horses in a race. You'll have 7 horses in rating order to accommodate scratches. That card for 6 tracks, $5. If you can't afford that, you don't need to be betting.
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable what people think. That I get text all the time when guys go to our Facebook pages where I put all of our results. Our website is actually a menu for pulling up the cards and buying a subscription. The Facebook page is where all the details are on how the races did during the day and the highlights. I highlight the payoffs. I have guys text me and say I'm past posting. No one can do this. You're past posting, like the Sting, reading it off a ticker tape, the results already in, and then you're pulling the wool over someone's eye. No, we don't. Buy a subscription. You'll get it hours or the day before. Like all of my customers for tomorrow, all of our subscription customers, because I was doing this show tonight, they had their subscriptions for tomorrow, like 1:00 this afternoon, was in their email box. Now, if someone went on there right now and decided to buy a subscription, it's instantaneous. If you go through your credit card or PayPal, as soon as you log that in, you'll have that in a matter of minutes. It'll be in your email basket. So the important thing is to give a correct email, or he'll be out there in the wind somewhere if you don't. But very simple. It works great. That's all I can say is that link will be up at Mike's place, and you won't have to even buy anything. If you want to come to our website or Facebook page or whatever, just click that little box on the Grilling Truth podcast. It's right there. The only thing that I don't like about it is when my son sent it to Mike, I wish he would have told me about it, because I don't like the word tip. Ours is selections or information, not tips. I don't give out tips. But anyway, that's how you get to us. Just click on that and I'll give you all the pertinent data.
All right, guys. I want to thank y'all for coming on. Bobby, I said y'all. I mean, you tell her from Indiana sometimes, huh, Bobby?
Yeah, that's true, Mike. and there's other days I can tell you've been a coach, a football one, because you got that in you too, Mike. There's a lot in you.
Hey, Mike.
I don't know.
One
Yeah.
One of the things that I really get enjoyment out of is you beating up on Steve. You guys must really be good. You guys have to be the best of friends. Because when I first started coming on, I thought, Mike's going to get punched in the nose beating up on this guy like that.
Oh, me and Steve, we put up with each other.
You guys must be old. You guys are old buddies. You must be old buddies.
It's only been a couple years, but it seems like it's been forever if you're listening, Risley. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. I want to remind you, we will be back in 50 minutes. We'll be live with former light heavyweight contender John Scully, who is the trainer, or one of the trainers for Artur Beterbiev, who is a light heavyweight champion of the world. And in 24 hours, John Scully will be escorting Arturo Beterbiev into the ring for a light heavyweight title fight. He'll be with us. After that, we'll have a little preview of tomorrow night's super fight between Canelo Alvarez and Daniel Jacobs. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Zeno Live Radio. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grilling Truth. So, for Vince DeGregory, Phil Rankin, Bobby Sheridan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grilling Truth, where the legends speak.